Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley. Every week, we look to bring you an inspiring story about service to others. We have a special focus in our club on the ideas of education and entrepreneurship and innovation. And so we love seeing those themes as a part of service to others, which is, of course, central to Rotary International. If you are new to Rotary, you might take a look at Rotary.org to see a little bit more about our organization. We are 1.3 million members and 33,000 clubs around the world, making a difference in the lives of others. And we would love for people with a heart for service to join us. Today, we're going to be hearing a presentation from Leo Johnson. Leo is in Hamilton, Canada, and Leo has an amazing story to tell. I'm really excited for our club to be able to share it. And so I will let him do further introductions, and I hand it over to you, Leo. Welcome to the Rotary eClub of Silicon Valley.
Thank you so much, Rushton, for having me, and thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be with you today. I really wanted to especially thank Rushton for making all of this and arranging all of this and making it to happen. My name is Leo Johnson, like you heard, and I'm going to be talking to you about the Liberian Learning Center project, which is a project that was given birth to on a refugee camp. I spent just over 8 years on 2 refugee camps, came to Canada as a government-sponsored refugee, as we call it here. And ever since, I've dedicated a good chunk of my life working with a lot of other people to using Rotary as a platform for doing things differently in countries like Liberia, where I come from. So just quickly, I'm also a member of the Rotary Club of Hamilton. As you can see, I am the Director for International Services there as well. And I've been a Rotarian now for about 4 years. It took me a while to join because I thought Rotary was a cult, because a group of people who don't talk about what they actually do, even though they do such amazing work. But eventually I joined. So the first thing I will really look at quickly here is today's reality in Liberia. If you look on at the slide here, you'll see that 70% of all education facilities have been damaged as a result of almost 20 years of civil war. There's currently 1 textbook for every 27 students in the country. And these are books from the 60s and 70s. They're really not useful in any modern educational setting. Liberia still have one of the lowest literacy rates in the world. And you may be surprised, but there is not a single public library in the entire country. These are some of the stats we've been able to pull out during about 8 years of work in Liberia, research and working with community groups and the Rotary clubs in the country as well. If you look, you will see that it's amazing. We've come up with an idea. How do we tackle a problem like this that is so overwhelming? Everything in Liberia is at a state of emergency. So where do you start? For someone like me who grew up in this place and still have my family and everybody there, I tell you one thing: why everybody is worried about relief in the immediate term, food for the hungry, medicine for the sick, those are all important things. But Liberia will only get to a stage where it can start to confront its own issues if we start to do real long-term investment and switching from relief mode to long-term investment, and that is education. And for most people, when you say education, they think about schools. I can tell you this: the government of Liberia cannot afford to have teachers for its own schools. So one of our key points from the research was, what do you do to support the existing schools and education settings that they already have in place, rather than just adding new ones on top of it? And the concept of the Liberian Learning Center came up after 8 years of research in 15 political subdivisions of the country, speaking to everybody. I will quickly show you the highlights of some of the key highlights of the project. A public library is going to be the only one in the country since 1989, since the war started. Anyone who's been to a modern library, it's not a room with books anymore. In fact, there are very little books in library as a result of technology, and this is where the issue of technology becomes very key. We're able to share knowledge and share materials across continents without even having to ship one book from one point to the other. And we're looking at using adaptive technology that is really suitable for the environment in Liberia, some of which I will mention shortly. A co-working facility. This came out of our research. we came across hundreds of amazing young entrepreneurs who already figure out this environment to be able to do business and succeed. And many of them told us the one thing we struggle with, where do we have access to continue to grow, but to also continue to build our capacity with knowledge and technology. Most of them are just moving from place to place, trying to make things work. So a co-working facility was one of the very strong points that came out of the research. An indoor recreation facility. This is going to house the only proper indoor recreation facility in the country. You have a country with about 250,000 former child soldiers. Many of them are not going to go through your regular educational settings anymore. But we all know the power of sports and what that can do in terms of teaching people life skills and very important societal skills. Dedicated children's space. In Liberia, the worst victims of the hardship and challenges are children. They have nowhere to go, there's nowhere to play, there's nothing to do. So having a dedicated children facility that can start to teach children from a very young age the value of literacy, the value of utilizing education will be an important factor in this facility. And there are also other areas in the building, like a small business incubation center and other features that we cannot go through tonight as a result of the time that we have. But some of that will come true in other details if you follow up to get more information. We'll quickly talk about the facility and the technology that we're looking at as a wrap up. If you look at our facility overview here, we're looking at using things like passive ventilation. How do you design a structure in a way that when the temperature cools down, you can use natural airflow? And when it gets really hot, you're able to close up the building to use inside ventilation. Solar. We are experimenting with solar. Solar is a new thing to Liberia, even though they have sunshine almost all year. And the reason we are experimenting is because we're looking at the process of knowledge transfer and knowledge exchange. What happens when this stuff breaks? Who's going to fix it? So part of our experiment is looking at doing vocational training teams within Rotary that we can start to build the capacity of people understanding how to work with solar. Water collection systems. Liberia has a lot of rainfall. We're building a water collection system on the roof to collect the rainwater, purify it, and have it used right in the building itself. Shade, something as simple as a shaded thermal mass. In Liberia, we don't have emergency shelters, and people are used to social spaces. How do you use the roof as a way of organizing people around this facility? And then we are also looking at daylighting, using natural daylight in the facility as well. But what I'm most excited about is the fact that 80% of all of the materials are going to be acquired locally to make sure that if something breaks, there's a lady or guy down the street who knows how to actually fix it, and we don't have to wait for engineers to come from North America. Financial need, the entire project is about $2 million. $1 million is the actual bricks and mortars. $500,000 is everything else that falls off when you turn the building upside down and shake it. Everything from your technology to anything else that you would need in there. One of the key things we are looking at is what we're calling a ghost server, being able to share information from North America to Liberia. The Hamilton Public Library has come on board, willing to deploy the digital assets that you'll be able to access it from the facility in Liberia, among other things, and also storing things here on a ghost server. If the building ever burns down, for example, being able to restore everything with a click of a mouse. Knowledge exchange and transfer is another $500,000. This is extremely important. You're going to put a facility like this, one of its kind in the country. We are anticipating that it will take us 3 years to be able to train, exchange knowledge, transfer knowledge, so that by the time the building is about to go on its own to be sustained, you already have the technical expertise and know-how locally within the community that can run this facility, including revenue generation models. The 3 various models that we put into place: event facilities, co-working leases, print and graphics production. I'll give you a quick example. The government of Liberia sent their print work to China currently to get done and brought back because no one in the country has the capacity to be able to produce it. And anyone who's seen technology, you know that you just need simple smart machines that can really do this stuff. So developing those kind of capacities would be key for us for the long term. This was last year when we go every time we have these mass community meetings, because we are making sure this process is owned by the community and people are not coming in to try and just do something because we feel it's good. So we have these mass meetings sometimes for 400 to 500 people, and then we have smaller focus working group that Rotary leads for us in the country. This is the Rotary Club of Monrovia, our committee there within the local club. So they are our partners on the ground. They are leading the project on the ground. We are just providing the resources and the gaps that are there for them to be able to implement this project. As you can see, we have all these working meetings when we are in the country. I will sum up with what I call the power of Rotary that we often tend to forget as Rotarians. If you raise 10,000 Rotary cash, you get $65,000 immediately because of the power of Rotary and the various matching levels that we have. If you raise 40,000, it goes up and exponentially. This is real power that we have to leverage that sometimes we don't leverage a lot. And a lot of smaller clubs may not have the ability to do massive international projects with these kind of impacts. So we're looking at working with many clubs to see how best we can maximize our resources by being able to come together around these big projects. We are looking at impacting about 300,000 people immediately when the project is up and running. My final piece I will talk about is a Rotary project in Liberia. Rotary Club of Monrovia have been able to successfully build the first medical grade oxygen producing plant in the country. Before this project, if you fell off for any reason, your chances of survival was almost zero, simply because oxygen was coming from outside of the country. Because of Rotary, this is a 200,000 United States dollars project. The only oxygen producing plant in the country now is in full operations and not just providing oxygen, but rationing it to other hospitals around the country. So this is the real impact sometimes we don't see because we come to these meetings, we pay our dues, we contribute, and sometimes it's too far-fetched. So bringing some of this home is really important. I will end by playing you a very brief video from the Rotary Club of Monrovia.
Ambassador for the Liberian Learning Center. Our club, as a host club, is particularly proud to partner on this initiative and offer fiduciary oversight, financial management, and consistency with community needs as outlined by Rotary's guidelines. As a club, since our founding in 1964, we have had extensive experience managing global grants. At the moment, we're managing a portfolio of global grants nearly $300,000 large. We are looking forward to partnering on this work and are pleased that you would be willing to consider your support for us as we transform the lives of young Liberians across the country. We would like to assure you of the transformational and multiplier effect your support will have through the Liberian Learning Center. Our club's leadership is committed to the sustainability of the project while espousing Rotary's values. We look forward to partnering with you, empowering Clear, and our local Liberian communities to make this a great success. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for having me. It's been an amazing time.
Excellent. Well, it is a pleasure to be able to get to have the opportunity to share the story. If you'll go ahead and stop sharing your screen, what I'll do is I'll introduce our other member on the call. So whenever we do these, we love to have members join in on the recordings because after we finish the recording, it gives us a chance to talk to the presenter even more, which is good fun. And so joining us from Sydney, Australia is Brett Sham. Brett, say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Excellent. And I know you'll pass along a hello to Ange as well from all of us. So Leo, wonderful project. I particularly like that we had that message from the past president of the Rotary Club of Monrovia at the end, talking about the nature of the planning that's been a part of this, so that one can know that there is something in place for how you're going to how to get Rotary clubs involved in this. Well, also sometimes at times the sound was a little low, and so what we'll do is we'll try to get that video kind of available to people as well. To start with, just a question about how you mentioned that this be owned by the community, and you showed the picture of the different groups of one of the groups that had come together for it. Tell me something that you learned as a part of having the community come together and hear about the plans that you changed with your plans as a function of things that they brought to it.
A valuable lesson through that process was just understanding how incredibly resourceful and knowledgeable people are of what type of interventions they need in their situation. And I also learned that most often they feel very helpless and overlooked by partners coming in to the point where they feel like they have no value to add to the process because people do not engage them. And just engaging them, I will be honest with you, gave us an incredible insight in many things that we were thinking about that we quickly realized made absolutely no sense. I will be honest with you, when we started this, we wanted to just go build a library, put books inside, and get kids happy and walk away. They quickly told us, you don't build one thing here. Anything you're building has to be able to solve at least 3 problems. It's not useful if it just solve one problem. We wouldn't have known that. For us, all we felt as a library is great. Go and build a library, make kids happy and walk away. So these were key things that only happen as a result of people being engaged from the very beginning of this project. And even to be honest with you, they've stepped up to the plate in terms of providing the land. They've already provided us a prime real estate property. They've basically told us that what you're doing is what we've always wanted to do, but nobody gave us the opportunity to actually do it and participate.
Fantastic. And I suspect that having any given project be valuable, at least on 3 fronts, is good planning no matter where you are in the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brett, any comments or questions from you?
Yeah, I guess it was more around the history behind it and how you and your club sort of got connected to it and you know, what support is needed by us or other clubs as well. And 'cause it sounds like a great project, right? And then, you know, even talking about the oxygen plan and the impact that's had there, it sounds like there's a lot of need for infrastructure and services in the country.
Yeah, it's interesting because I am from Liberia originally. I fled as a result of the war and through the refugee camps made it to Canada. So I started this organization called Empowerment Squared, which is a registered Canadian charity. We've been around for 12 years now. So originally the project was started by Empowerment Squared as an organization, and it helped because me being from there helped us navigate a lot of the nuances that usually you wouldn't be able to navigate on your own if you get involved in the situations. But our club took it right up when it saw it, especially given that a lineup with 2 of Rotary's 6 areas, economic development and literacy as a core piece of the project itself. In terms of how other clubs can pick it up and get involved, there are 2 key ways. One is through a global grant process that we're currently engaged with Rotary International directly. So this project has been pre-approved already. Now, the global grant with Rotary, their money does not go to bricks and mortars. It's just a Rotary thing. It can go to anything else except to brick and mortar. So we're fundraising for the other half directly. And being a registered charity, we can receive donations directly from individuals or from clubs or from other organizations as well. So some clubs choose to go through the global grant process by contributing to that. It's really up to clubs in terms of what fits their best need, but also expertise. We're talking about a lot of moving parts in this project, everything from technology, everything from solar, everything. So we're really looking forward to Rotarians who might be connected with some of their own private companies or other businesses that might have some expertise to actually bring to bear.
Yeah, because I saw the slides you had prepared around the matching and how you know, the foundation grants help boost the funds to get them. And so if I recall, I think it was a $2 million target. Was that right?
That is right.
And how far along are you in terms of achieving that?
So as a risk management piece, again, through our research, we've broken the project into 3 stages. Stage 1 is going to be just the public library and a small business incubation center, which is just around $500,000. And we've designed it in a way where that can be fully completed and operational so that lessons learned from phase 1 can help us get better in phase 2 and help us get better in phase 3. So right now, our immediate financial need for phase 1 is around $500,000. Of that $500,000, 300,000 is actual bricks and mortars that's going to go onto the ground. And then 200,000 is really for equipping the facilities and getting it up to actually running. We are raising the 300,000. We've currently at around $160,000 raise for the bricks and mortar piece, and then we're going through the global grant process. It's been pre-approved, but we're just going back and forth now with the foundation for things that they want us to clarify more or they want more information on until they get all that they need for their final stamp of approval on it. So that's how far we are right now.
Very cool stuff. And by the way, for our viewers, we'll have a link below which takes you to Empowerment Squared, the Liberian Learning Center. And on that page, I believe that if you click in the menu bar in the upper right, you can see how to donate if you'd like to donate personally. So please consider that. Leo, as we look at donating expertise, for example, one of the things I know tons about is open educational resources. You mentioned that there's one textbook for every 27 students, which right. And so there are some strong online free textbook systems that are out there now, and if that's something that you aren't already connected to, I would be very happy to be able to help you and the people who are in charge of the educational pieces of that kind of see what that is. And for people who might be curious, ck12.org, just the letters CK and then the number 12.org, was started by a woman from India who saw that there were loads of opportunities to help kids get online in rural parts of India, but no books. And she said, well, let's see if we can put together high quality textbooks online that are flexible enough for people to be able to adapt to a situation. And so that's the kind of thing that might be of value to you.
Extremely important, very, very important, actually, I'll say, because you know the cost of shipping from one end to the other on these things. And because we have nowhere to deploy these things in Liberia right now, that's why the facility, the infrastructure is so important, where people can come and be able to access it. And I look forward to engaging with you more on that piece.
We'll definitely work together on that. More generally, you use the phrase using Rotary as a platform at one point, which I really like. I like that image of how Rotarians can look at what they do in Rotary as an opportunity to make something happen. And so you have this kind of personal story that's amazing. You were in refugee camps, 2 different refugee camps in Liberia for 8 years. You've managed to get to Canada as a refugee. Once you're in Canada, you start working on your academic possibilities within the systems there. You get accepted to McMaster University. You start Empowerment Square. I mean, you're the story in a sense that people all over the world need to hear, to be like, if I just keep at it, I can make it happen. And when you think about Rotary as a platform, how did you realize that Rotary could be that for you? At what point along the way did you get connected to Rotary?
First of all, I used to despise international development, period. Organizations that were involved in any form of international development, I stayed far away from them. Just because through the war in Liberia as a child and on the refugee camps, I just wonder who was informing these people that was doing international work that kept coming to the camp and trying to do stuff, because it didn't make sense what they were doing. And they seemed to not want to listen to anybody until I met Rotary. I volunteered with Rotary for 4 years without being a member, without saying anything to anyone, because I was looking for somewhere that I say to people, for some of us who are from these countries, we are accountable for the rest of our lives. We cannot pack our bags and leave. It's not possible. So whatever we do there, and I had a unique opportunity. I've lived on the other side of it, and now sitting in some of these rooms where these discussions happen and decisions are made, I can help inform it. And Rotary presented that for me because it put the power in the hands of the people. And for me, you cannot solve people's problems. You cannot even begin to understand people's problems before talk about solving it. What you can do, you can avail yourself to figure out what meaningful role you can play to empower them to confront their issues, because that's what it really, really matters.
Fantastic. Now, when you think about these businesses that are part, so there's a co-working space. There's the opportunity to rent the space for projects that companies may have, or groups or whatever. There are spaces for children, and that was particularly poignant in thinking about how they've got a space to be able to play and learn, and how the former child soldiers have a chance to play as well. Is there one among those pieces that has found particular purchase with others? What I mean is there part of a story of the Liberian Learning Center that has really launched how you talk about this project and how people come to support it?
Yes, there's a very particular piece around 5 years ago when I was in Liberia. I met a young girl at 10 o'clock in the night sitting beside a compound, reading with a boy sitting beside her. So I stopped to talk to her, and she said to me, after school, we go to sell to the markets until sometimes 7, 8 p.m. And then I walk 5 kilometers to come here because it's the closest compound that has electricity, and I have to sit beside the compound, the fence, so that the reflection of the light outside, I can use it to read, because it's the only way I'm able to do schoolwork. But I have to bring my brother along because we often get raped under the cover of dark when we're trying to walk back home. And for me, that changed everything from that moment. That I tell people, if you have a young daughter, hug them close to you tonight. Because for a young girl, just trying to seek the opportunity to get education, having to face the reality of getting raped every single night from Monday to Friday, and they have no other choice but to take that journey and go, or else they will not be able to meet up with their schoolwork, or at the same time sell to feed their families. It changed everything for me. It was not just about literacy anymore. It was literally about people's lives. And I would say this project for me, I usually tell people that it is a pilot, because for me, I see it as a mechanism through which we can start to attract more people to see how you can be effective, not necessarily with a lot of money. You may not even get an article if you raise $2 million here. Let's be honest. Talk about building a facility of that nature. But seeing what this can literally do in the lives of people, for me, speaks volumes more than just literacy. It tells me that we still have an opportunity to change one thing, and that thing is to give people hope that somebody somewhere is willing to listen, to work with you and figure things out, regardless of how many people have turned you down.
Well, in that people who are watching this recording are connected to Rotary in some fashion, that they are members of Rotary clubs, or they have been connected to people who told them about this, every last one of those people can be someone who helps make this happen. And that's a wonderful thing to know. You know, sometimes we go through our weeks and we think, you know, what value did I bring to the world this week? And knowing that you're finding ways to help a project like this, and that there are so many projects in Rotary that are doing so much good around the world. You know, a whole lot of pat our own backs, but still, you know, all good. I should wind us down, and then I'll give Leo, you the last word for the message before we stop the recording. So first, thanks to Leo for the presentation. Thanks to all of the members of the Rotary Club of Monrovia, the Rotary Club of Hamilton, you know, members and guests in our club who will take an interest in this project, and all of our members and guests who are taking part in this week's meeting. As always, we want to know you were here. Please do the form that tells us you attended. When you add your email address properly to that form, it will send you an email that you can take back to your own club secretary as a makeup for a missed meeting. In the world that we live in, and with the club that we have, we like to think that we are providing the opportunity for Rotarians everywhere to become 100% attendee folks. These are people who want that extra shot in the arm every week of what it means to be inspired by service to others. There's also a discussion section at the bottom, and we hope that you will also reply to comments that other people have left, and that you will leave your own comment about what this program and other elements of our meeting made you think about possibilities for doing right by those in need. So with that, I will hand it back to Leo for the final thought. Leo?
Thank you very much, Roger, and thank you to everybody for affording me this opportunity to engage and speak with you as a fellow Rotarian. And I will say this to you: if you've ever wondered why you are a member of Rotary, or if it ever just crossed your mind, is it still important for me to be a member of Rotary, I want you to rethink tonight that saving even one child's life is worth enough being a member of Rotary. And I want to encourage all of you who are able to support in whatever way you can, because I know all of you guys different ways that you might be able to support. And if you're not able to support, I'll say pray for us, that as we do this, we will continue to make the right decisions and connect. You can donate directly on our website, or for some of you who might need more information, I'll provide my information to Rushton, who can share it with you all, and I'm happy to answer questions anytime. But hey, this is a Rotary opportunity. It's not a problem. And it's another chance that we have to make a statement that there are still good people in this world, and there are still people who care more than just what affects them directly every day. And I look forward to engaging as many of you as possible. Thank you.
Excellent. Everyone, we will see you next week.